A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away. Greetings and welcome to May the Panel Be With You, the Star Wars comic book show brought to you by the Punch-Up Entertainment Network. I am your humble host, Mike Gargoni, and joining me, as always, the Dragon Lord to my little mutated lizard thing, it's John Campbell.
Hello, everybody. Oh, boy. Oh, the mutated lizard things, the Dragon Lords. It's all at play here, man.
Yes, indeed. We are hip deep in a wild mythological battle in, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yes, indeed. Welcome back. Of course, we are right back into it in Marvel Star Wars. The original Marvel Star Wars comic launched in 1977. We are now in 1978. In fact, this issue number 14, was released August 1st, 1978. We are now beyond the year of Star Wars.
Beyond
but Star Wars
the year,
is no less popular.
Beyond everything, beyond story sense and character work and Jesus. Yeah.
We've got a lot of the same creative team back. We've got written by Archie Goodwin. We've got pencils by Carmen Infantino. We've got inks by Terry Austin. We've got colors by Janice Cohen. And we have got letters by Denise Wool.
And consulting editor, James Shooter. Oh, he's fancy this month. James Shooter.
Jimmy, you're putting on airs.
Well, look, when you put out a comic like this, you've got to get formal, because when you're talking about storytelling this good, this prestigious, they won awards for this, right?
I don't know if Marvel Comics was winning awards at any turn at this point.
No, I don't really know what comics awards look like at this time. I don't think the Eisners were a thing yet.
The Eisners and the Nebula usually has some graphic novel
that might have
to it.
And I feel like this was about the time the Nebula was starting.
But Nebula really did feel we're about science fiction literature here. So I don't know about that.
Asimov and stuff and Heinlein Nebulas, right? That's the thing on Mythic Quest that F. Murray Abraham's character is a Nebula. Anyway, yes, Star Wars. Yes. Man, it doesn't really feel like the Star Wars we know in this issue, does it?
Look, when we open up with I want to leap right into the cover here because when you leap in with a title like The Sound of Armageddon.
Well,
Armageddon.
Yeah.
That word right there sticks in my craw.
Don't want to miss
Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's easier to teach oil drillers how to be astronauts than the other way around. That's all we know.
Oh, yeah. That movie taught us that definitively.
No,
Did they not stop that asteroid? No.
With the help of Aerosmith and Steve Buscemi, of course they did.
Yep. The Armageddon in the Star Wars context.
In the Star Wars context. Armageddon is a very biblical word.
Oh, yeah.
It has a very specific meaning insofar as it is these days generally used as a apocalyptic event in which everything is destroyed, right?
Yeah,
Armageddon.
There's a Star Trek episode, a very famous one called A Touch of Armageddon, or A Taste of Armageddon. Sorry, not a touch of, A Taste of Armageddon. Great episode. Sorry to bring up the Star franchise.
I mean, it's okay. There's some comparisons to be drawn.
Yeah.
One or two, as the fans will never let us forget.
Especially at this point, they haven't fully diverged into their own, because we're still early in the Star Wars, right?
But, so to say Armageddon as some apocalyptic event, right, especially after the first Star Wars movie presents us with a banal evil empire of bureaucratic evil that can offhandedly destroy a planet. You gotta really ratchet up the tension to earn the word Armageddon. And when this comic repeatedly goes out of its way to remind us that this world is a middle of nowhere, out of the way, a hick town cargo cult, I'm not feeling the Armageddon in this one, John.
No, this doesn't earn this title at all. My God. Exactly. In a movie, we literally blew up a planet. And here it's what is this? A minor like blood feud between a couple of backwoods clans. Uh, it's really and you talk about the sound of Armageddon. That has the speaking of Nebula Awards, that sounds like that's a Heinlein short story or something, doesn't it?
Now, I understand that the plot of this comic revolves around something called a sonic jammer, so I think Sound of Armageddon is a
Yes.
play on that,
Yes.
but it doesn't. Armageddon is not delivered upon in this.
No. I didn't see Bruce Willis drilling into an asteroid at any point. No. But
Now,
you're
and
right.
here's the weird thing: if it had been called Sound of Doomsday or
Yeah.
Sound of a Doomsday, I would be less up in arms about
We
this because
already
this is a
know,
day of doom of sorts. This
and
is
we are,
Doom World after
I
all.
was going to say, we already know we're on a Doom world, so make heads up to me.
That's what I'm saying. Like, already we're dealing with some misplays here, and
Well,
sorry for getting so nitpicky so early
no,
on.
no, no, no. Valid. I mean, because once again, they're really leading with this. So I think it's fair to have expectations about this. The other thing I expected based on this cover is for all of our heroes to drop acid.
Yeah, we got some. Yeah, I expect Pink Floyd to be playing over the black light version of this poster as like the colors in the background swirl and undulate to the rhythm of the music.
This felt like they didn't have a cover this month, so it's just sort of like a hero shot of all the characters and their with their weapons, and then they're like, I don't know, just put a '70s background on it.
This, to me, is clearly because this is a cover by Carmine Infantino. This
Correct?
reads to me as this is what he drew to prove he could draw these characters, or like
Yeah.
his like test character profile page.
Yeah, because nothing about this has anything to do with this issue. This could be the cover to any issue of Star Wars.
Right. Also, the little fucking Luger handgun that Chewie is holding just seems so out of place and silly.
Well,
I don't know what it is.
it looks like not in color but in shape. It looks like the golden gun from the Man with the Golden Gun.
Ooh, yeah, totally.
It does with that square boxy, because of course, for those who remember, and I promised you less Bond talk on this show, but they started this. But of course, in that movie, that he carries the gun because it looks like a lighter and a pen, and when he puts them together, so that's where it's got that boxy handle,
Right, 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 right.
a pen-like barrel. So, yeah, weird
Well,
choice. Weird rifle on Han too. I mean, like none of this. Once again, guys, you've seen the movie. You know what the guns of Star Wars look like.
well, it looks like Leia's carrying Han's gun, and Luke is carrying a gun similar to Chewie's, but it's tough to tell because it blends in with Han's crotch.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's not good color or inking. And then, of course, he's just sort of kind of not holding it in a threatening way, but he's got his classic pink lightsaber, which looks really bad on this almost pink background.
Yeah, like you said, this feels like our. We just need a cover. It could be literally a cover for any issue. We don't care.
Yeah, this feels like the poster they were selling, you know?
Yeah. So
Um,
anyway, let's get into this issue after we,
because there's almost nothing to say about this cover.
despite us just talking for the last 20 minutes about it.
Yeah.
But
Um,
we come in on the Sound of Armageddon. We get our credits up there at the top. We get a in media res scenario in which Luke is being savaged by Chewbacca the Wookiee.
well, that was where we went.
why?
Well, as it says here, isn't it here? That they talk about that he, for some reason, is blaming Luke for the supposed death of Han Solo.
So at the editor's note at the end of last issue, we left our heroes seemingly with Han and Leia dead as the cargo cult of the Wreckers has destroyed or shot at the Millennium Falcon, knocking Han into the sea. Which is why Chewie believes him dead. And of course, it looked as though Luke was in league with these people because he had sort of been shanghaied into helping them.
Right.
And
That's
now
the-
Chewbacca, an intelligent creature, is deciding to ask zero questions about the scenario and simply murder Luke Skywalker.
Yes, because what's great is, and what we kind of assumed would be the case here, leaving on that cliffhanger. This is all explained pretty quickly if you just let him say like 2 sentences.
Right. Though, I do like the 2 sentences we get in a weird circle caption, which we see a few
Yeah.
of in this one, but in this one it seems especially out of place because it is literally just the narrator telling us a bit of like universe lore, which I kind of love actually.
I just wish it was better than this.
Sure, because it says, "What do you call someone who fights an enraged Wookiee barehanded? Dead. Dot dot dot. Old cantina joke."
Yeah. Wise man say, you know.
He who fight Wookiee have no arms.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's sort of thing here. I mean, they are. This comic has really seized on that one line when they're playing holo chess.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole comic's been like, got it, vicious animal, and you're like, did you really watch that scene? Because once again, as we talk about, they're kind of playing out. Not that Chewbacca isn't capable of kicking some ass, but like they kind of are playing up the savagery of Chewbacca to intimidate people more than Chewie is some kind of wild savage creature.
Sure, but again, we really only have the one
The
movie
one
to go on
movie.
at this point.
Yeah.
We are not going to see the gentle giant aspect of Chewie until Empire Strikes Back. Really.
Well, and also they've just decided to make him furry as all get out. Because look at that fur, man. He's never looked like that.
Well, he is basically head to toe a L'Oreal commercial at this point. He's got flowing hair.
Maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's Wookiee wash. Don't steal that. That's going to be my product, folks. No,
Fine, you can have Wookiee wash so long as I can have Kashyyyk chic.
Ooh, I like it. Chic. Yeah. Well, so anyway, as it says here, as if this weren't trouble enough, let's go to the next page and full-on gigantic sea battle.
So clearly, this was a 2-page spread in the comic book as originally printed, and devoid of any context, this is rad.
Badass as hell, man. No question. All this stuff is like, if this was just a Marvel book or something, I don't, any of their other adventure books or something, I would look at this art and think, awesome. This Infantino page here rules. Sea serpents attacking ships and stuff like that. I'm going, what sweet pirate book is this from?
Mm-hmm. With the big pirate ship outline in the background of the like decrepit moss-covered pirate ship city.
I love
It's awesome. And yeah, in another book, without the context of Star Wars, and again, without the retroactive context of Star Wars that we personally have reading it, because at this time, what is a Star Wars? A Star Wars is one movie and these comics, and maybe Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
Yeah, that's just, I think we've talked about that's like just come out.
Mm-hmm.
We did look that up. That came out like within the last couple issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's no, obviously like the world of it isn't defined, but so I do suppose it's sort of the thing of in the defense of these Marvel creators, there's nothing in the moment that says there isn't a planet full of pirate ships in Star Wars.
Right.
But
with the context of 50 years of Star Wars behind us.
Also, just it's just interesting that this is what they run to so early, just coming off of the movie. They're not. I mean, I'll give them this. They don't just go, "Let's just do more of the movie." They are creating their own stuff. It's wild and weird, but to be fair, they aren't resting on the laurels of the film.
Yeah, and that's one of the draws to this comic, right? Is going back and seeing what did people think a Star Wars continuation would look like, barring any other material for context.
Yeah.
And so when you have comic books, which are notoriously a medium in which you just need to get the next issue out.
Oh, God, yeah.
Just need to get to enough word counts or page counts that we can publish this thing that is made on basically tissue paper that the kids will buy off of drugstore stands.
Yeah, it's gonna get folded up into an 8-year-old's back pocket.
Right. So while these stories to us seem like wildly out of place, inconsequential, and like weird as all get out, we are witnessing people pushing the frontiers of what Star Wars is, and some of these ideas will stick, and some of these ideas will be cast aside. And we just got to come to grips with the fact that we're going to be way more in the ideas that are cast aside category more often than not.
Well, and also, but I mean, the biggest thing, so I'm looking at harping on more things like this issue in general feels like you talk about just getting stuff out. This one really does feel like this one runs out of steam, right?
Oh yeah. Well, you can tell by the reduced page count. This one's only a solid 17 pages.
Yeah.
Of course, that counts the double page spread here. So like we're looking at an 18-page comic. Comics in these days were about 24, 25 pages.
Yeah.
So the rest of those pages would have been ads, which is what makes these books money.
Yes, and I have noticed in general this tends to be one of the shorter comics for this era.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think in general it's this was a cash cow for Marvel and they treated it as such. So yeah, so anyway, we've got this giant sea battle going on. And then we've got one of the dumbest characters in all of Star Wars, Governor Quarg.
Governor Quarg, who again is just so many Heart of Darkness-esque characters who are like the military-esque leader at the top of a cult who refuses to let any shift in the balance of power dissuade his arrogance about how all-powerful he thinks he is.
Yes, and to the point of his own, like, hey, this is actively going to destroy everything. He's like, I don't care.
Right. Because he has one of his subordinates here, some Hawkeye-looking motherfucker, saying, like, but Your Honor, it's us that's being destroyed if things keep going as they are. We won't have a skimmer left. We've got to set sail, sir. Move the ship before...
And he punches him in the... There's a lot of punching in the face on this issue. Mm-hmm. He goes, move! You mean flee, you cowardly sea scud?
Yeah, I believe we just... Sea scud. This is a very Sergeant Rock punch here.
It's a very Sergeant Rock punch. And I think that Infantino might have worked on some Sergeant Rock in his day. So
I constantly think of those old military comics when I see a fist that is the size of a ham and a man whose teeth are bared and his eyes are closed.
And that impact, like, burst of energy that I love. That's very comic booky. And the whap of
also,
that.
How is he actually hitting him? I think he's actually, like, not even punching him. He's pulling the fist down across his chin, like if he had an invisible knife or something, just based on the motion that we see in the panel here.
This is Korg has invented something that is a mix of a punch and a slap. It's new. It's bold, man.
That's the Korg plap right there.
Well, that Korg, he was such an innovator, you know? But yeah, I just love this where they're just like, you're going to destroy everything. He's like, nope, I'm pulling it out. And then you got, boy, if he's not threatening to hang somebody in this comic, he's not doing anything, is he? Because he says, you'll try harder or you'll hang.
Yeah. And
I also love the idea the technology is at limits, so you just need to try harder.
Right. Because his whole thing is they have caught a Imperial Star Destroyer that is being crewed by pirates.
Mm-hmm.
The most notable pirate,
Crimson
Jack.
Famous hater of pants.
Famous hater of pants and sleeves.
And lover of lounge chairs.
But they need... Governor Quarg is so consumed with pulling that thing out of orbit because it will mean a lifetime's worth of treasure and metal that they can use to finally defeat the Dragon Lords. Yeah, who are these people who are riding the sea serpents.
Because basically, the world of this planet, the lone planet in the Drexel system, as we've talked about, it has split into two factions. You've got what are these? The scavengers or the scrappers?
The wreckers.
The wreckers, that's it. They're living on the surface in these ships. And then we've got the Dragon's Lords who are living under the water, basically, and have made peace with the sea life of the planet.
Yes. And why they are fighting is because... I mean, the reason they're fighting...
I know.
Well, because, you know, the deep-seated tensions of...
Indeed. All of that.
Yeah. As we learn more about these two cultures, there is legitimately no reason they should be at conflict with each other.
I have no idea why they don't seem to be in any way competing with each other for resources or... also, it's this classic thing I love, and so many sci-fi franchises do this, where it's like battle for control of a planet. Well, a planet's a gigantic place, all right?
Right.
Like planets always just end up being cities or countries in Star Trek or Star Wars, right? Where you're just going like,
Hmm.
do you have any? This would be like, we want control of this planet, so we're battling Australia.
I mean, but we say that after the first Avengers film is the control of this planet boils down to the battle for New York, right?
I mean, yes, this is true. This is true. And to be fair, that was though sort of point zero for an alien invasion that would have spread over the world.
Sure. I guess my point there is just like, yes, that can be a very reductive use
Especially
of the word planet.
especially when the planet's an ocean planet and one of these groups lives almost entirely underwater.
And presumably the sea life of this ocean planet vastly outnumbers the humanoid population that are non-native.
So it seems like in that case, if the sea life are on one side of it, shouldn't that kind of be the end of it?
I would assume.
Yeah,
And again, here we go.
they play
But
fast and loose.
yeah, why the Dragon Lords didn't just fuck off to the other side of the equator, who knows?
Let's cut to this Star Destroyer that's being pulled out of space, though, and our friend Crimson Jack and his great Cold War era submarine like chart board here. He's playing a game of Battleship on this ship, right?
If there is one thing that I absolutely love in dated science fiction, and not even dated science fiction, because we even see this in like more modern sci-fi, like Battlestar Galactica's reboot,
That's exactly what I'm thinking, yeah.
is antiquity, like antiquity maps or like
Yeah,
antiquated maps
yeah.
in a space setting. It
Love
makes zero sense because three dimensions.
Yeah, it's just thing. People have brought this up about a lot of stuff. Why are ships always meeting like nose to nose in Star Wars or Star Trek and stuff like that? When conceivably you could constantly be coming above or under people, or
There is a broad consensus in sci-fi that there is like a middle plane to any space, and we just have to work with that, I
there
guess.
kind of has to be in order for us to like comprehend it as a story a little bit, right?
Right. It like one of my favorite space battles is the one above Scarif in Rogue One.
Agreed.
It's
Amazing
an
battle.
amazing space battle. But if you even think about the physics of that battle for a
Yeah.
few seconds, it ceases to make any sense. Why would a Star Destroyer begin to sink?
Right. Yeah. 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 But
Eh,
it's the thing where we have to acknowledge that. Otherwise, number one, a lot of these battles, number one, probably wouldn't even happen,
yeah.
and two, wouldn't make any visual sense to us.
Right, exactly. It would be
So
incomprehensible to
it,
try
it
to observe.
it's a conceit you have to buy, and it's the same thing with Star Trek, right? All the submarine combat of Star Trek, like why just get away from Khan by flying way under him, and stuff like that. But no, it's got to be nose to nose.
Right. But Crimson Jack is being pulled down to the planet around the star sun Drexel. Again, this planet still doesn't have a name. He is arguing with the chief engineer, though he is taking it way more reasonably than Governor Quarg.
Way more reasonably. Yeah.
Mostly because he has Han Solo to blame.
Yeah, that goddamn Han Solo. I love that he's doing the like Robin from '66 Batman thing, going, "Ooh, that Han Solo! I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him."
And the chief engineer here aboard Crimson Jack's ship, yet another eclectically dressed individual who looks like a member of the French Foreign Legion.
He really does. Yeah, this guy stepped out of an old World War II movie. And then Mod Squad Jolly here, or Jolie, or whatever you want to call her. And oh boy, if we thought there was weird stuff, the weird stuff with her continues here. She also hates Han Solo for different reasons.
Or does she? So
Well, that's
she hates him. Okay, obviously this book has no interest in discussing the existence of bisexuals, but
Well, no, but they're accidentally discussing the existence of them, right? Like
I
that.
know.
So funny because she's upset because she says It's that damn princess who kept filling my head with thoughts about things other than pirating. And that, which, you know what? That alone, I would have been like, okay, and kind of just gone past it. It's then the narrator's note or whatever here that goes, things such as being attracted to a man for the first time, a man like Han Solo. Now, they just, in their mind, it's like she was asexual, I think is what they're kind of saying up to the point where
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
all she's had time to think about is pirating.
Yeah.
And to be
She
fair, look at the guys who are around her. I'm not surprised to hear this is the first. I mean, what's she going to be into Crimson Jack or the weirdos he's got on his team? So maybe it is just this is the first even remotely viable partner she's seen. But the fact that they say attracted to a man for the first time to a modern audience is really like,
And again, that does lock us into like a sort of gender binary already. So like
yes.
maybe she wasn't also attracted to women before. Maybe she was just a kleptosexual up until this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's also something to say about because this is space by man meaning human, and maybe she's only been into other alien races.
Yeah, maybe her and Bosk have had a long-standing relationship. We don't know.
There's a couple I'd like to see. That's a power couple.
That's a there's a Trandoshan human couple in the Afra comics that I absolutely love.
There is. You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fun. And that is certainly something that Star Wars can play around with. But of course, this is 1978, and they're not thinking anything beyond the very surface level of this. But it is, when you read it, you're going like, man, I want to get way more into Jolie's sexuality and like what her deal is.
Yeah, and again, I really don't think that's going to have any substantial payoff in this book, but it does make me go like, are you even reading the words you're writing, Goodwin? Cuz like I don't know if you know what you're doing here.
No, they don't, because and it's the thing is just because at the time nobody was, right? There was no, everything was
Well,
binary.
there were just the white guys at the Marvel office weren't.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Or if they were, it was in like deep subtext that they were never allowed to make like text on the page. Because Claremont famously was like pushing for an expanded roster of representation in the X-Men books.
But even at this time, you were thinking it was still going as far out as I think most of the thinking was going was straight or gay, not bisexual or any of the other letters.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
Oh. We good? Oh.
Yep, there we go.
Okay. I did not hit stop record on anything.
Okay.
So I'm just going to write down a timestamp for some of this stuff.
I'll just put in a cut, and we'll acknowledge that there's a cut.
We're about at the 0028 mark, and I will bring us back in at 2940, which will be in about 5 seconds. So yeah, I'm very curious to see if we go anywhere with Jolie, but I'm not exactly holding my breath.
I'm not, like I said, also even if it was, we won't put it in, but even whatever concept of queer a character would have been still very simple, even in its alternative.
Yes, absolutely.
So yes, but still, yeah, it is just weird to read that. I went, last night when I was reading, going, okay, sure. Uh,
Hmm.
anyway, where is Han Solo right now? Well, he's not dead, luckily.
He is underwater, strapped to the back of a plesiosaurus, being dragged away by the Dragon
The
Lords.
Dragon Lords, which is a guy riding this sea serpent dragon thing and holding a flare.
Well, he's holding one of those like sonic staff things that we've seen
Yeah.
before. And
Uh,
we'll find out exactly what those things do later this issue.
so he's
But
alive and wet.
yeah, he is very, very wet. I mean, he's underwater. Of course he is.
Yeah, I know. That's sort of, yeah, that's the thing. But anyway, meanwhile, let's just catch up with everybody. So we'll quickly cut back to Princess Leia on the Millennium Falcon, grabbing an old Super 8 camera. I'm sorry, that's a blaster.
And now, when the Millennium Falcon was shot last issue, Leia was still inside the ship, so she
Yeah,
wasn't knocked off, which we are told in her inner monologue. But the ship was grabbed by the wreckers, apparently, and they're dragging it back to the ship city.
correct. So they're being pulled, and honestly, man, shouldn't they just be happy with the Falcon? Isn't that like a huge score for them? Why are they still trying to yank the giant Star Destroyer out of the sky? Like, it
Somebody
feels
says that later in the issue. One of Captain Quark's subordinates is like, that thing is like years worth of scrap and salvage for us.
yeah.
And Governor Quark is like, no, but that ship up there, that's a lifetime. That's his Moby Dick at this point.
Oh
This is
yeah.
Ahab.
No, he's fully lost his mind at this point, and it will be the undoing of his society.
Yeah,
But
pretty much.
so we've got Princess Leia acknowledged here as once senator. We've been talking about they kept calling her senator, and finally they've acknowledged that she's no longer a senator. Mm-hmm. In the description.
So I'm glad Goodwin is catching up with the text of the product he is
Yeah,
writing.
I still, as much as I love Infantino, I still think his Leia face design is terrible.
Well, again, he has a really bad case of same face when it comes to
Yeah,
women characters, because we even look back at the last page and Jolie's got those like really sharp eyebrows that
yeah.
Leia back on this page also has.
All of his women seem really harsh, and that's particularly strange when we're looking at in any way. And I don't expect like photographic likenesses necessarily, but in any way representing Carrie Fisher.
No, right.
So they, yeah,
So
they've pulled it in. Quark's
and
is
now
excited about this, but it's not enough, man.
yeah, and this is actually where he says like, because if we succeed, it will mean metal and parts and plunder for a lifetime, you dolt.
And I mean, literally, the other guy is so reasonable. This character from Bridge on the River Kwai that he's talking to, um, but he's just going like, "Hey, man, regardless of whatever we may get from that, in the amount of time it's taken us and energy to try to pull this thing out of the sky, we're really vulnerable to attack. So we could get wiped out in the time." And he's like, "No, I don't care." I mean, basically, there's no listening to reason for him. He's full on out of his mind at this point.
Right. And there's also some impetus about like, I'll do what my father never could to this guy that
Oh, yeah.
we're not even really, we've never encountered his father. We just know that this guy is a bundle of nervous obsessions
Yeah.
that will ultimately destroy his people.
Absolutely. Why? This guy should not be in charge.
Oh. Well, and he won't be here in a minute.
No. Meanwhile, though, Chewie still trying to murder Luke Skywalker.
And I can't believe Chewie falls for the old droid in front of your leg so I trip maneuver.
I couldn't believe. Oh, here's the thing, Master Luke. I'll just lay down in front of him, and then whoop, there he goes.
To be fair, this is maybe about as useful as 3PO could be in a combat scenario, is bumbling into somebody's legs.
It's true. The other thing I'm just disturbed by is 3PO on all fours.
Yeah, that is a posture that I hope I never see again.
Yeah. And Chewie's not having buckets. He's going broke.
I would expect in this scenario that Chewie would just punt 3PO into Luke,
Yep.
but whatever.
Yep. Nope. Instead, this is all working because on the next page, we'll see that R2 hits him with the old fire extinguisher.
Yeah, which, okay, let's talk about this for a second. I like that he has fire extinguishing foam. That totally makes sense for R2. As
Yeah,
an astromech unit, he would have to put out fires. I think
totally.
we've actually even seen him put out fires
I
in
feel like,
some of the movies.
yeah, I feel like maybe in the prequels he did on like
Yeah.
in ship. Yeah.
Or like when we first introduce him on the Naboo cruiser when he's like fixing the shields as they're
Yes.
escaping.
Yes. The only one of
Uh,
those four astromechs who makes it out of that battle.
right. Well, that's because it's R2D2.
Mhm.
And so him having like fire extinguishing foam totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It being able to suffocate a Wookiee into unconsciousness,
Yeah.
that is what stretches my belief.
Well, because as they say here, they even say spray foam spews from the R2 unit. Foam generally used to smother the flames of ship-to-ship space battle. Now you figure that's going to be a lot less to put out little fires on like an X-wing than it is to bring down a Wookiee. Like how much
And
foam could be contained in his little extinguisher?
enough to knock out a Wookiee, I guess, because now chokes the air and smothers the raging Wookiee with unconsciousness. So my second question is,
Hmm.
if this foam remains applied to Chewbacca, what is stopping him from suffocating to death?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Is it letting in enough air that he is then allowed to keep living? I guess. Otherwise, R2 just killed Chewbacca the
Once he's
Wookiee.
unconscious, Luke goes and pokes a couple holes in it where his nostrils are. It's like, there you go.
Stick some straws up his nose, yeah.
That and Luke just going, whew, that saves us from killing each other for a while. I'm gonna have to fight this guy when he wakes up, though.
One day, Chewie and I shall have our battle to the death, but not this day.
Well, no, because right now he's being summoned by this bodybuilder. Look at this guy.
Yeah.
This guy is so jacked. He has a 4-pack, but it's the equivalent of 8 abs. He's got abs that have combined.
The abs have merged into 4 super abs, John.
This guy is that in shape.
He is a collection of lines that is mostly abs in the background of a panel.
I know, yeah, it's those things where when
But
you
yes,
start losing detail on background characters, they get weird looking.
Luke is dragged up because the governor's plan here is so the city ship doesn't have enough power to use the sonic scrambler to pull the Star Destroyer out of orbit. So his idea is, let's hook the Millennium Falcon up to the city to drain the Falcon's power to then increase the power of the scrambler.
That's smart because best case scenario, you get the ship. Worst case scenario, you now have no power and no backup power.
Yeah, so, it's an all or nothing gamble, but that's kind of where they're at this point.
Yeah. Well, that's where he's at. I'm not sure his people
Yeah.
are on that.
No. This is a bad plan. Let's be clear about that.
Well, it is because Luke calls him a fat-faced excuse for a leader. Hey, man. All right.
No body.
Yeah, the
Luke and
body,
body shaming. Come on.
Plenty of things to get on Korg about, but let's not with the weight stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you could call him a hot-looking motherfucker.
Oh, I'd be on board with that. Because
Yeah.
that's just comparative. That's just accurate.
Uh-huh. But
you could even
yeah.
call it a fat head if you wanted to.
This is actually my favorite part of this issue right here is this last panel down on the right, which is Korg dragging out Leia because they've recaptured Leia. Or
When is she not captured?
Leia has yet again been captured by yet another force. But it goes on to my running theory that whoever captures Leia is doing it at a cost because he says it costs us a number of good men to dig out this hidden survivor, implying that Leia killed a bunch of people before she went down.
Leia has dropped so many bodies off panel in this comic.
Yeah.
Leia is a legendary murderer in this world.
Well, she sets her blasters to kill, John.
I did, yeah, they did say I did like that later. Yeah, it's just like she's not fucking around, man. Let that be my poll quote. Princess Leia, -- she's not fucking around. It's true, though. I mean, the thing I just wish we saw more of it because one of the things that was so great about A New Hope and that they're borrowing from this is Leia is no damsel in distress. She's the one who takes command of her own rescue. And, I mean, Leia is such an awesome character, so I'm glad they at least acknowledge she's a badass if we never see it, though.
Yeah. I would like to see at least once or twice a sequence in which she drops like 4 bodies and somebody who's captured her going like, I don't think this is worth it.
Yeah. Just let her go, man. Just let her go. So yeah, that's his big thing is I'm going to kill Leia if you don't do this work for me. Then meanwhile, I was not expecting this. Let's cut to the previously mentioned lizards that are all over the ship.
Which I do like that we're actually getting some payoff. I asked some questions about like how are these little lizards like cropping up on the ship, and the comic wheels back and answers my questions, which I enjoyed.
It does indeed. It's a completely insane explanation, but
That the lizards are actually the baby forms of the sea serpents we've been seeing the whole time.
who
Yes,
are,
insane.
who are purposely spying on and
Because yeah,
back to the Dragon Lords, who are if we have the pirate guys, these guys are very superhero-y in their Micronauts outfits.
okay, we get so little look into the Dragon Lord society, but it is, if you thought the cargo cult living on the artificial pirate ship cities was wild, wait until we get the barest hint of the commune with nature dragon lord we live in underwater mountain societies.
I want to know way more about these guys. These guys have a whole hidden base. Like I said, you talk about they feel like they could be their own toy line.
100%. There are some dino riders waiting to happen here.
Absolutely. This is huge missed opportunity. Because, yes, they're reporting back, and it's Han Solo going, yeah, these air pocket caverns make a refreshing break. So
Sure.
these people have really figured some stuff out. They're living, but it is sort of a thing where it's like, why are they battling with the wreckers?
So the impetus of their conflict, or at least like why they're at odds with each other, seems to stem from the fact, and this was covered a couple issues ago, that the Dragon Lords are the people or the descendants of the people who got to this planet and said, look, what if we weren't murderous space thugs anymore? And everyone still living on the pirate ship was like, you're insane, go die in a fire. And so they left.
Yeah. And for some reason, even though once again they're like societies don't really actively conflict with each other for land, or I mean, do they conflict for resources? I don't. It's unclear.
It's unclear because we don't really see much of the Dragon Lord's like architecture and how they do things.
Like they're settled
It
down there.
seems like they're at. It seems like they're in conflict for metal was the implication, but that comes from Governor Quarg, and he's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's weird that we spend so much time with the wreckers and the Dragon Lords, who are seem really fascinating to me, are given like, yeah.
Because they're the ones who have like actually figured out how to live on this world in a stable and sustainable way, and yet they're living at odds with these just like hobo hillbilly pirate
Yeah,
people.
it does seem like they are more technologically advanced. They also have the advantage of having, once again, the predominant life forms on the planet on
Well,
their side.
because yeah, let's go to the next page because we get our explanations for this. That the little lizards are actually the babies of the dragons. The
Yep.
dragons, we learn, are also sentient, intelligent creatures, and that the staves that the dragon lords have allow them to communicate.
Yes. And also, this book can't resist a wizard-looking motherfucker.
Oh, this guy is such a weird, like yeah, like you say, micronaut wizard.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Also, I mean, it's fine. Obviously, it makes sense, but it's so weird anytime anyone calls Han Mr. Solo. No, Solo. 'Cause people usually either call him Solo or Captain Solo. Mr. Solo is so. That was my father.
It could be worse. Could be Sir Solo.
Now listen, Sir Solo, or Solo-san.
Wow, we haven't gotten to the Star Wars manga yet. We will. I promise you, we will.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm also expecting to get to a samurai planet at some point here too in this comic. Solo-san. Um, but
But
yeah, yeah. So yes, God, that second panel where he's nuzzling up to that baby lizard and he's just like, I love it here so much.
yeah, and apparently they need special equipment to understand the baby dragons because they speak at such a high frequency, which again makes total sense. Smaller creatures.
Which does require him to put on these crazy headphones.
I do love the crazy, like, understand babies headphones.
Also, there's something so funny to me about Han Solo being the character we know, and just him going like, I don't know. It just seems like You just
Can
never.
you imagine Harrison Ford delivering the line, "They communicate with sound, right? Pitched beyond the human hearing of at ultrasonic levels."
No, I can imagine handing him a script and him going, "I'm not saying this."
They speak in squeaks, right?
Yeah.
I'm drifting into Patrick Warburton here.
Well, it's a fine line. Uh,
Yeah. They communicate with sound, right?
well,
Pitched beyond human levels of hearing at
yeah.
ultrasonic levels.
Han Solo, captain of the Millennium Falcon. Chewie,
Man, I would kind of love to see that actually.
how about we, Chewie, let's pull up to that Arby's. Roast beef.
But we find out that the sonic jammer that Korg is using to try to draw down the Star Destroyer is actually vibrating or emitting pulses at such a frequency that it is driving the sea dragons mad.
Yes.
And also, eventually, it will kill them if the frequency is increased.
Right, right. Which is sort of not necessarily the goal of the Wreckers, but they're uncaring if that's the consequence of it.
And you would think, considering the Wreckers' whole deal is that they use this sonic scrambler to pull ships out of the space, that they would have figured this out by now.
Yes.
Because we actually got a hint at this in the first issue here, because that first sea serpent that attacks Luke's ship is going wild because the sonic scrambler drew Luke's ship down onto the planet. And so when the Dragon Lord showed up and was like, "Hey, whoa there, buddy," and lured it away, that actually all tracks with what's happening here. This is a rare case in which this comic actually follows through and remembers plot points that it has set up.
And the big thing here is that happens on an individual level when they activate these things, but now that they've activated with such power, as they say here, it's spread to the entire dragon population.
Yeah, and we find out on this next page that it is already beginning to kill the babies.
Right.
Which are those little lizards. So we see the little lizard that this guy was so friendly with in the last page is dead on the table. And Han is like, "Oh, Jesus Christ."
Yeah, Han is very concerned about all this. And meanwhile, it's battle. Everyone to battle stations. Get into your purple outfits.
Right, because basically the Dragon Lords are like, it's do or die time now. We've got to shut down the Scrambler or our way of life is going to be really, really upset. Which, okay, maybe that's the central conflict that's been driving them, is that the continued use of the Sonic Scrambler is messing with the dragons.
Totally valid. Make that clear then.
Yeah, that's me positive.
I'm on board for any of this. Just I want the comic to confirm, to solidly confirm any of this. Because sure, fair. Whatever. Also, I mean, you talk about just we don't get a look at the society. The other thing we don't get is a sense of how many of these Dragon Lords there are. We really only see these two guys and then some other people in the background when you see a bunch of guys on dragons, but you don't get the society like you get with the Wreckers.
In the last issue, we did see a line of Dragon Lords from horizon to horizon, so it's got to be a lot.
It is a lot, but I'm just saying, when we're down in the Dragon Lord society, we see two guys.
Right, and we only ever see, really, the interior of one of their buildings. We, very briefly see the shoreline of this underwater cave system, and that's it.
And so we turn the page, and we're back to a rad battle scene of a toy playset I'm mad I never had.
Oh, man. You just know that there would be a Hot Wheels tie-in where one of the cars would go through the dragon's mouth and out the other end.
Absolutely. Look at this thing, though. This guy's blasting away with a two-barreled turret at a dragon. I love the guy, the pirate guy who's just flying in the air.
I really enjoy the purple pirate in the middle of the panel that's being, nose booped into oblivion by the green dragons coming through here.
Great stuff, man. And everybody's got their little elf hats on.
Yeah. And the narration here is trying to drive home the fact that, maybe they are going for an Armageddon level. This is the populations of this world tearing each other apart.
Right.
In, a pitched battle that none of them have ever experienced.
It's true. It's just, we kind of don't care.
And again, when the stakes of a planet being blown up are the baseline that we come into with Star Wars, the level of expectation here is already so high.
Yes, exactly. That's sort of the thing where you're talking about this, where you go like, I understand objectively the stakes are high for these people, but none of our characters are these people, and we're just sort of bearing witness to
Right.
a battle, which once again could destroy two small societies.
Right. I mean, and because that's how you balance it out in Star Wars, right? Is the big, broad context of evil galactic empire that can destroy worlds versus the personal stakes of Han, Leia, and Luke
Right.
in their personal conflicts. Now, all of their own personal conflicts in these stories that we've been covering are basically sidelined at this point because remember the rebel base desperately needs to be moved in case the Empire shows up plot that we've completely forgotten in favor of dragons.
I mean, that is sort of the thing. It's in Star Wars, it's tough to get away from the primary conflict, right? And you kind of shouldn't, even if you can take sojourns from it. I think Clone Wars does a good job with this, where even when you go to these other planets, the Clone Wars of the title are still the overarching thing that's affecting all the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that
I
from here is the Empire has no bearing on this.
I've been really enjoying the Bad Batch, the new Clone Wars season 7, if you will.
Sure.
But which now Bad Batch is in its second season, and it is doing a phenomenal job of, yes, we can have a lot of these side stories, but let's never escape the fact that the Empire is this creeping evil in the background that is affecting every layer of society.
I mean, not to as always, we're want to bring them up, but look at what the sequel trilogy had to do to basically bring the Empire back because they can't fathom like finding a new thing, which I think worked to the detriment of that. But it was sort of thing where it's like, okay, we got to somehow reestablish the Empire because that's kind of what the whole thing's really about.
To an extent. But
Yeah.
even the prequel eras, like you've got your Separatists and your Republic, and
Yes.
those are two sides of the same coin to an extent because, of course, Palpatine's playing both sides.
You sort of need a war in the background of your Star Wars, believe it or not.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. I think the big mistake with the sequel trilogy, of course, was trying to one for one recreate, well, the Empire specifically needs to be back and not coming up with some new threat.
And therefore then making the events of the original movies kind of meaningless.
Right. So, and that's why let's leap back into this dragon battle.
Yeah. Well, you can already see it's like my blood was starting to boil. It was at a simmer.
Yeah.
All right. Back to this though. Yeah. So anyway, while this is happening, Luke is putting his plan into motion with 3PO and R2.
Right. He is trying to hook up the Millennium Falcon to the ship city per Quarg's instructions.
Yes. But meanwhile, let's go to the next page here.
A dragon attacks the Millennium Falcon.
Well, I do like the line about like everything will be right as long as something unforeseen doesn't happen. Whoa! There we go, been attacked. You gotta love that writing.
And down the hatch comes, it's a Dragon Lord. But wait, no, it's not, because open up the visor and it's Han Solo.
So they tell me, once again, if they didn't say it was Han Solo, I would not have put together that's Han Solo based on some of that Infantino same face.
Yeah, oh boy. Speaking of faces, Luke's face in the bottom middle panel here, as he's excited to see Han alive.
Yeah, actually, Luke's face and all three of these panels at the bottom are really weird.
He's got those like tiny little pupils and the little eyes. It's very bizarre.
And also, okay, so I hate this part of the comic.
Oh, yeah, the next page where they start fighting.
Yeah, for no reason. It's another thing where if one of the others said one sentence, this would be over. There is no reason why Luke should punch Han Solo right now.
Right, because Han wants to help out the Dragon Lords and stop them from upping the Scrambler. Luke's motivations here are wildly unclear, and it seems like he is just solving all of his problems with violence rather than just saying, but if we let it turn on, we get control of the Falcon, which is the sentence he would have to say to stop this conflict.
Exactly. And the thing about it is, it's so not his character. Even if you are just basing it on one movie, Luke is not the quick to violence type ever. Han would be the one who might throw a punch, But in actual, but here just having Luke and just go like, no way, pal. And yes, and also I won't explain anything. I'm just gonna punch you, and then we'll keep arguing. And then once again, it's just like, but this, and then you just go, oh, okay, that's objectively terrible writing.
Right. And even if because we eventually get that his motivation is once this hookup occurs, the Falcon's systems will be back online and we can escape using it.
Right.
But I assumed his motivations were, but they've got Leia, which again, they could just say,
Yep.
they've got Leia, I have to do this.
Just like, yeah, every character in this comic becomes a violent maniac.
Yeah.
It's,
yeah. Except for 3PO. He's just
well,
3PO.
Yeah, 3PO is ever 3PO, maybe the most consistent character across the whole franchise.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy is just he 3PO gonna 3PO. So anyway, they get into this long, or well, I guess not that long, but it's like that anyway, they're fighting it out here. And then meanwhile,
they've hooked up they've hooked up the Falcon. The Scrambler's getting more power, and now the dragons are flailing and dying
because the sound of Armageddon is heard.
They said the thing, John. They said the thing.
Don't you love it when they say the thing?
It would be so more effective if we saw more than just one dragon dying, I guess.
It's so much of the problem with this whole comic is so much implied stakes, and yet you actually see stuff happening. Aside from a couple of glorious panels of like battle, it is just kind of like I intellectually understand what's happening, but I'm really not feeling it. But we go
speaking of feeling it, we do get Leia being "fuck this" and Kirk hammer dropping Quark to make her escape.
This hammer punch made me very happy, and the whoomp of her gut punching him is pretty great. I do like that. That is once again, that is what we want Leia to be like here. Even if, goddamn, Infantino, great artist, but I'm not sure the physics of human breasts make any sense to him based on the motions on this next page. Those things are rock solid. All he knows,
they're like body armor, right?
Well, all he knows is to draw pecs, I think, right? So he just goes, "Oh, I'll just change the shape of it, but I'll keep the physics of male pectoral muscles the same." I was like, "Hey, you've been drawing superhero comics a little too long, buddy." But you've gotta love what happens next.
Oh yeah, 100%. Leia leads Quarg and his minions past the brig when apparently Chewie, done with his nap, erupts from the wall like the Kool-Aid Man.
Yeah. We get it, and with a hearty garark.
I mean, Chewie is undoubtedly pissed here because he is looking. I mean, let's be honest. He's probably looking to kill R2-D2 in this moment.
Yeah. Where's that trash can droid?
I am gonna throw that thing into another thing until it explodes.
But in the meantime, I'm gonna tear apart some pirates that are in my way. The Wookiee.
Yeah, I thought he was reported unconscious, safe to keep as prisoner. Nope.
God, this stupidity of I thought he was reported unconscious, and another day just goes, well, he woke up, obviously. Reported. Jeez, I thought he was reported unconscious. That's not like a permanent solution, man.
And one of his minions says he had to wake up sometime, Your Honor.
And so Chewie is now. They cut away here in this next panel where Chewie's pretty strong. Can Chewie bend a rifle like Superman? I've never seen him do that.
To be fair, the gear that these wreckers are using is a generation old and held together with chewing gum and the will
probably
of the Force.
Rusted, and yes. Okay, I will give you that. If this was an Imperial rifle, I would have more. But you're right. This is they don't necessarily have the finest of equipment here.
Mostly, I do love Quark just being like, "Hold them off, boys," and climbing away as Chewie just. These two guys are dead.
Back away, not today. In the iconic words of Disco Stew.
And Governor Quark turns his back on two guards long known for their loyalty and utter lack of common sense.
Oh, man. That's, boy, Goodwin getting snarky on that one. Meanwhile, Han and Luke continue to fight for no reason until they.
Han, I'm pretty sure that's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., John.
It does seem that way. Nick Fury stumbles into the Millennium Falcon. Yeah.
Han dressed in like a full bodysuit with pouches and like a artificial widow's peak of a head cap just looks so bizarre.
Ladies and gentlemen, Race Bannon. But then very quickly, as quickly as he changed into it, he's out of the outfit next.
Yeah, because like as soon as Luke, God forbid, tells Han what the plan is, suddenly they're back to being pals, and Han is out of his costume.
Yeah, and there's no moment of like, hey, you punched me. That was pretty fucked up, man.
To be fair, like in this top right panel, Han immediately disarms Luke. It's just like, come on, kid, you don't got this. You're a pilot. I mean,
that's true. That is true. But so it is like, yeah, you got a couple shots in, but you weren't gonna do anything, man. And then pretty quickly, though, this is when you talk about this thing. There's 2 pages left, and they're like, we better wrap this thing up.
The hard cut to Luke being in the Falcon to where we find him on the next page is one of the most jarring instances of comic book gutter teleportation that I've seen outside of books that literally use gutters as a teleportation device a la She-Hulk.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, this is worse than that. I mean, this is more meta than that. Like, I'm sorry, this is asking a lot, and that called itself out.
Right. At least She-Hulk is like, well, we're going to move between the gutters now, so come along with us, won't you?
Right. Because they see that Leia is out on the mast of this ship, and they're like, oh no, we better do something to save her. Go to the next page, and yes, she's being chased by a bizarrely sure-footed Governor Korg, by the way, on this mast.
Well, he was born to these masts, John. He's been climbing these masts since he was but a wee lad.
Yar, matey. And he's literally going, I'm hoping to hang you, because that's good for discipline. Although I'm just going like, dude, how do you not realize you've completely lost your empire no matter what's happening here? But he goes, although maybe if I just shoot you and everybody sees that, they'll also think that's pretty cool.
So Leia's at the edge of this mast, hanging on for dear life. Behind her, you see pirates tumbling off as like the war continues in the background.
I do think it's like, who's gonna see you shoot Leia, man? Everybody is kind of running for their lives at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
no, this is very much the captain as the ship's going down, going like, "Don't worry, I'll still make it out okay."
Absolutely. And then. And I get where this is coming from. If you've just seen the first movie, you're under the impression Luke Skywalker is some sort of Errol Flynn swashbuckler.
Mm-hmm.
Here comes Luke. Yeah, how did he get from the Falcon to up, like, where the mast is? There is a quick line in here about it.
So, when it says, there was no time to reach the mainmast, Luke went for the nearest one. The fight up is a blur. He only knows he has reached his goal and must act now. So, that's just the narrator going like, yeah, don't worry about it.
And it's like, well, that could have been something we could see. And it just seems like we don't have the pages. We got to put more there.
In the panel before, we do see Luke on one of the masts knocking a couple of pirates off in the background.
Yes. But what you don't see is it's a big jump to go turn the page. He's on the Falcon looking at a video display of, which by the way is interesting to me because I don't remember any like video displays on the Falcon like that.
What camera's exterior does the Falcon have? Anyway, what gets me is that we got to think of these not as ship masts either, because it's a city, right?
Yeah.
He went up like 100 floors because the mast is all like buildings and houses.
Yeah, that's the thing. So he's on the Falcon, which is floating in the water, and now he's up on top of this giant ship city.
Before Quarg, who already had Leia cornered, before Quarg can actually kill her.
And this is Luke really being pretty new to the Force and stuff like that. So I don't think he's doing Jedi flips and stuff up here necessarily.
I'm going to say that he instinctually accessed the Force and used the little mention, but only once seen in Episode 1 power.
Not
Force speed.
Oh, Force speed. Thank God we only saw it once. It's the goofiest shit in that movie. And it's one of those things where every time I watch Phantom Menace, I'm like, oh, I forgot about Force Speed. Thank God they didn't try to do that again. When Obi-Wan turns into the Flash. Um,
Yeah, when they speed up the runtime of the film for a couple of seconds.
it's pretty bad. And so, yeah, he kicks Governor Korg on the next page. Kicks him good. Leia, this is also wild because this has to happen in one motion. That he kicks while he's actively kicking Governor Korg, Leia has grabbed onto his midsection.
No, because it says, then as Luke's backswing begins,
Oh, I see.
the princess leaps. So he kicks Quarg, and then as the momentum of
You know what's great in a comic book when you have to use words to describe the actions of drawings.
Yeah. So like a pendulum, he's hit the top of his arc. He's on his backswing, coming back down after having kicked. Leia jumps off the mast and grabs him by the hip, not disrupting his swing at all, apparently. But then they get far enough away with that swing and land somewhere safely enough that they are unhurt when the main mast then explodes.
Yes, because then talk about another gutter jump on the same page. At least the Luke one was a page turn. This one is just to the next panel. They're all just standing on the main deck of the ship.
I had to reread the captioning here a couple of times just to grasp, like, okay, wait, what just happened? Because it says, it is the end. Though the actual fighting continues on into the night, by the first glow of dawn, even that is long over, and a new and hopeful, better era comes to the city ship.
You know what I love is a couple sentences that describe a giant battle having occurred in a comic book.
So, the battle continued well into the night.
Yeah.
Then, by the morning, the battle is over. The Dragon Lords have won. They are taking over the city ship, and our heroes are all fine.
Except for Han Solo, who's still fucking pissed.
Well, he's more concerned than pissed. Because we have the old Dragon Lord wizard saying, there's no way we can reward you for your friends, Mr. Skywalker, but your thanks will be ours forever.
Excuse me, Mr. Skywalker? It's just so funny. Once again, the misters. You just don't hear it in Star Wars. Excuse me, Mr. Skywalker.
Also, Luke just offhandedly saying, at least my misunderstanding with Chewbacca was straightened out. We're not going to see that exchange, but trust me that it got straightened out.
Yeah, because look, it seems to be Chewie seems to be smiling in that last panel, like, yeah, everything's all right. But Han Solo's worried. Mainly, I'm worried about the fact that Leia's buns have become square.
And like are seemingly a vice around her head, slowly squeezing it.
Boy, love Carmine Infantino. Might have been a little rushed on that last drawing.
Well, yeah. Solo is staring broodingly off into the distance. Yeah. But as Han Solo is staring into the sky, deep in thought, about a great battle cruiser which may still be there, and its master, Crimson Jack.
Well, the next issue promises us showdown, double exclamation point.
Double exclamation point. But the way this comic is going, it could be a showdown between anybody.
Yeah.
It could be Luke and Chewie after all of this.
You know what? We didn't settle things. No, supposedly we're going to get our big showdown with Crimson Jack next week.
Yeah, maybe Jolie's unresolved feelings of lust towards Han Solo will finally be resolved.
She's never felt in her life, apparently, up to this point.
Well, look, you spend your whole life being like driven romantically and sexually by the act of piracy, and suddenly somebody else's physical form becomes attractive. You got to question some things.
My whole life has been about piracy. I never thought about love.
I mean, and why she would think about it now? Because Han Solo, that's why.
Well, I mean, I can't blame her there. I mean, we're talking 1977 Harrison Ford.
Though I'm hoping for more of a, what's that movie? Showgirl scenario where it's actually Leia that has like driven these thoughts into her brain. Because every time we mention Jolie's like sudden sexual awakening, Leia is also mentioned.
Well, that's the weirdest thing is like, not only is it's not just that she has lustful feelings towards Han Solo. It's Leia who put them there. That's, I
Right.
mean, there's a lot to unpack. This is a therapist's
Hmm.
dream to deal with this woman and her confused sexuality.
Right, right. Yeah.
Man.
So I'm really hoping this comic delivers a tasteful, interesting, and nuanced take on Jolie the Pirate Queen's sexuality.
Oh, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, this
Well,
comic from 1978 will handle all of that
well, that's
tactfully.
exactly when they were talking about this stuff. I think Marvel was really at the forefront of this area. Yeah. That's we'll have to find out next week though.
Yeah, that is the end of issue number 14. What our showdown will hold. Let's hope it's with Crimson Jack, because if we could see the tail end of his bethied glory,
Yeah.
I would be the happier for it.
I just want Han Solo to go, I'm gonna put some pants on you, asshole.
Nah, the pantsing of Crimson Jack actually has a whole other meaning in this
Yeah.
context.
He's been pantsed. Uh, no, all my power came from those thighs. Uh,
Absolutely. But
yeah.
yeah, why don't you let us know in the comments below who you think the showdown is going to be? Is it going to be Han Solo and Crimson Jack? Is it going to be Leia and Jolie? Is it going to be Chewbacca the Wookiee and R2D2 finally duking out the battle we've all been waiting for?
Or some kind of combination of all of them. Maybe showdowns all around. There were 2 exclamation points. That promises showdowns.
Look, maybe the showdown is a metaphor. Either way, let us know what you think in the comments below, because yes, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can like, comment, and subscribe. All of those things help. Hit the little bingle the dingle down below.
I think legally they've asked you to stop saying bingle the dingle. HR.
Okay, fine. Dongle the bongle then.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think HR will be fine with that. So. And of course, if you want even more exclusive content from us, you can head over to our Podbean patron page. That's patron.podbean.com/punchup for all kinds of exclusive content from this, as well as the other Punch Up entertainment shows, including Material Components, The Action Shelf, and Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for listening. As always, I've been Mike Rigoni.
I'm John Campbell.
And remember, may the panel be with you.